Welcome to Self-Discipline, Selections from All Men Are Brothers by Mahatma Gandhi Ji, Vegetarian, Part 1 of 2. Born Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, the man who came to be known as the Great Souled or Mahatma Gandhi Ji, was an exemplary spiritual practitioner and visionary leader of India. Born in 1869, this passionate servant of humanity first became a lawyer. However, he felt a different calling from within, as he discovered a fervent wish to improve the lives of all people. The beloved Mahatma Gandhi Ji sometimes spoke about desired changes in government and would meditate and fast to encourage a non-violent and beneficial outcome. He thus became an example of peaceful change for an entire country. In his book, All Men Are Brothers, Mahatma Gandhi Ji humbly reflects on his own life and inner realizations as a way to illustrate the unity of our global spiritual family. In one passage, he describes faith as a divine principle within us all, regardless of religion. It is faith that steers us through stormy seas, faith that moves mountains, and faith that jumps across the ocean. That faith is nothing but a living, wide-awake consciousness of God within. He who has achieved that faith wants nothing. Bodily diseased, he is spiritually healthy. Physically poor, he rolls in spiritual riches. Now we would like to share with you Mahatma Gandhi's eloquent thoughts on self-discipline from Chapter 5 of his book, All Men Are Brothers. Chapter 5, Self-Discipline. Civilization, in the real sense of the term, consists not in multiplication but in the deliberate and voluntary restriction of wants. This alone promotes real happiness and contentment and increases the capacity for service. A certain degree of physical harmony and comfort is necessary, but above that level, it becomes a hindrance instead of a help. Therefore, the ideal of creating an unlimited number of wants and satisfying them seems to be a delusion and a snare. The satisfaction of one's physical needs, even the intellectual needs of one's narrow self, must meet at a point, a dead stop, before it degenerates into physical and intellectual voluptuousness. A man must arrange his physical and cultural circumstances so that they may not hinder him in his service of humanity, on which all his energies should be concentrated. The relation between the body and the mind is so intimate that if either of them got out of order, the whole system would suffer. Hence, it follows that a pure character is the foundation of health in the real sense of the term, and we may say that all evil thoughts and evil passions are but different forms of disease. Perfect health can be attained only by living in obedience to the laws of God and defying the power of Satan. True happiness is impossible without true health, and true health is impossible without a rigid control of the palate. All the other senses will automatically come under control when the palate has been brought under control. And he who has conquered his senses has really conquered the whole world, and he becomes a part of God. I have taken up journalism not for its sake but merely as an aid to what I have conceived to be my mission in life. My mission is to teach by example and precept under severe restraint the use of the matchless weapon of satyagraha, or a policy of passive political resistance, which is a direct corollary of non-violence and truth. I am anxious, indeed I am impatient, to demonstrate that there is no remedy for the many ills of life save that of non-violence. It is a solvent strong enough to melt the stoniest heart. It is wrong and immoral to seek to escape the consequences of one's acts. It is good for a person who overeats to have an ache and a fast. It is bad for him to indulge his appetite and then escape the consequences by taking tonics or other medicine. It is still worse for a person to indulge in his animal passions and escape the consequences of his acts. Nature is relentless and will have full revenge for any such violation of her laws. Moral results can only be produced by moral restraints. All other restraints defeat the very purpose for which they are intended. It is not for us to find fault with anyone else and sit in judgment over him. We should be exhausted judging ourselves only, and as long as we notice a single fault in ourselves, and wish our relations and friends not to forsake us in spite of such fault, we have no right to poke our nose into other people's conduct. If in spite of ourselves we notice another's fault, we should ask him himself if we have the power and think it proper to do so, but we have no right to ask anybody else. Do not brood over the passions. When you have once come to a decision, do not be reconsidering it. Taking a vow implies that the mind ceases to think on the subject of that vow any longer. When a merchant has sold some goods, he thinks no more about them, but only about other things. The same is the case with the subject matter of a vow. You will wish to know what the marks of a man are who wants to realize truth, which is God. He must be completely free from anger and lust, greed and attachment, pride and fear. He must reduce himself to zero and have perfect control over all his senses, beginning with the palate or tongue. The tongue is the organ of speech as well as of taste. It is with the tongue that we indulge in exaggeration, untruth, and speech that hurts. The craving for taste makes us slaves to the palate, so that, like animals, we live to eat. But with proper discipline, we can make ourselves into beings only a little below the angels. He who has mastered his senses is first and foremost among men. All virtues reside in him. God manifests himself through him. Such is the power of self-discipline. All universal rules of conduct, known as God's commandments, are simple and easy to understand and to carry out if the will is there. They only appear to be difficult because of the inertia which governs mankind. There is nothing at a standstill in nature. Only God is motionless, for He was, is, and will be the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow, and is ever moving. Hence, I hold that if mankind is to live, it has to come increasingly under sway of truth and nonviolence. Just as for conducting scientific experiments, there is an indispensable scientific course of instruction. In the same way, strict preliminary discipline is necessary to qualify a person to make experiments in the spiritual realm. Abstemiousness from intoxicating drinks and drugs, and from all kinds of foods, especially meat, is undoubtedly a great aid to the evolution of the spirit, but it is by no means an end in itself. Experience teaches that animal food is unsuited to those who would curb their passions, but it is wrong to overestimate the importance of food in the formation of character or in subjugating the flesh. Diet is a powerful factor not to be neglected, but to sum up all religion in terms of diet, as is often done in India, is a wrong, as it is to disregard all restraint in regard to diet and to give full reins to one's appetite.
When man learns to respect even the smallest being of creation, nobody has to teach him to love his fellow man. Dr. Albert Schweitzer, MD, vegetarian.
Kind-hearted viewers, thank you for your company on today's Words of Wisdom.